Welcome everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. My name is Kevin Cleary. I'm the chairman of the DPW Commissioners Board. I'm also the chairman of the DPW Building Committee. Tonight we're going to kind of just, as a quick little video, I'm going to show you kind of some of the existing conditions and the current state of our facility. And then we have our architect and engineer here who'll kind of go through what we're looking to build and then open up to any questions. So, this one here. This is just a short, a little over 5-minute video of our current facility. This, what we call the front building, is over 100 years old. It stores our break room, meeting room, general storage, cold storage, has our one working bathroom. Obviously, you know, looking at some of these videos, it's in pretty tough shape. Like I said, the front part of it is over 100 years old. The back part is about 50, 60 years old. You know, it's old mortar, cement, old windows, not efficient. It doesn't really have proper heat, proper ventilation. We've done a good job maintaining it at this point, but clearly it's in a pretty bad state of disrepair. This is what is our current break room, storage room, locker room for the crews. We have 17 full-time employees working out of this area with our highway, park and tree, maintenance, and water and sewer departments. You know, depending, these guys could be working 2-3 days in a row, snowstorms, power outages, hurricanes, and you know, they don't even have a proper facility. As you can see, where we do have the break room, it's really just a garage that we just converted. It doesn't have any of the proper facilities. This is that same front building, some of our storage. There's no heat in any of these areas. It's all cold storage, but we do still work in those areas. Again, it's cramped, it's outdated. It, you know, doesn't have proper lighting. Not proper insulation. This is also the same building that we had a fire in the roof rafters.
60s.
In the 60s. You know, it's an all wood frame building, so there was a pretty significant fire that the roof rafters are all charred. You know, there's some storage up, you know, not really storage. I mean, there's areas for storage above this, but it's just not accessible. Only staircases. You know, there's some stuff up there, but it's just not usable for us. Here's some of those rafters that you can see that are charred. Again, very little insulation. It's well past its lifespan. Again, just some of the storage areas. It's really just old junk that's stored up there that we don't really need because they just can't get to it. Again, this is back down on the first level. So this is the back building, we call it. This building was built in the 70s. It's a metal frame space building. Cold storage, that's where all equipment's parked, our trucks, excavators, snow plows, sidewalk plows, sweepers. Again, it's upwards of almost 50 years old. It's past its lifespan. You know, this, we're gonna reuse part of this. We're able to reuse some of the foundation, and Greg can talk about that a little bit. You know, a lot of this is just the skin of it is rotted, rusted, past its age. The garage doors are very small. With a truck with a plow, we only have a couple inches clearance on either side, so part of the design would be to make larger garage doors and things like that. Again, we would keep the footprint of where this building is and just kind of build a new structure on top of it and reuse the foundation and some of the underground elements and incorporate those into our design. You kind of see these, there is a heater, but it doesn't work. There's no ventilation in here. So when you start with the trucks, you see how we're going to park one truck behind another truck. So if we're going to get a truck out from the back, we're going to move stuff in the front. It's just, cramp space. Not just, not proper facilities. Just kind of storing things is wherever we can find it. The insulation exposed, we get holes, we get rot. It's in tough shape. So this is the last part of that cold storage building, is our mechanic staff. So we have 2 full-time mechanics. We maintain all our own equipment. Right now we just have 1 bay. We have portable lifts that we have to bring in and out to lift up any of the trucks. That bay doesn't have any ventilation. It has heat, but obviously if you're working on a truck in the wintertime, you have to open the doors because you have to have the ventilation for the equipment. Again, just basic facilities. What we're trying to do is just make a new current facility that has the basic needs that our crews need, that our mechanics need, that our staff needs. We are making the building a little larger. We're adding square footage from the buildings we have, obviously, so we can build to the future. And then, like I said, bring our facility up into current standards. I guess at this time, I'll turn it over to Greg, our architect engineer. He can kind of go into what we're building, how we're building it, and then we can open up the questions from there.
Good evening, and thank you for having us here today. As Kevin has mentioned, the buildings are, the front building, as he refers to, or the operations building, is over 100 years old, and the rear building, which is the vehicle storage building, is 50 plus years old. Over those decades, requirements for DPW facilities have changed, as well as codes, and all these other things. One of the big things that is a challenge for DPWs today is, believe it or not, the vehicles are getting larger, not smaller. They have more demands. As a result, they're also more sophisticated, so you need better garage facilities and everything to accommodate that. But most important is, all as good as the equipment is and everything, the critical thing is the personnel that works there. And I think when you saw those break rooms and everything, the facilities for the personnel are pretty deplorable. I mean, there's really no other word that can be used for that. And of course, they're the hard-working men and women that are actually plowing your streets, fixing your water lines and everything. So what we've tried to do is build you the most efficient, cost-effective DPW facility that meets all their current needs, anticipates some future needs, and obviously is up to current standards, codes, and life safety requirements. So the first plan that I have here is the basic site plan, that kind of yellow building. We're right above, below the word Essex Streets. That's the VFW. Across the street is the operations building, and that big white rectangle there is what we'd call the vehicle storage. That's the 50-year-old building. The building in front is the 100-year-old building. And then just to the south west of it, you'll see that little square there. That is the current fueling station. That fueling operation will remain. That is relatively new, so there's no reason to replace that. Next slide, please. So the next slide you'll see is, this is the new site plan. So the building is kind of a T-shaped facility. You'll see on the bottom right, if you don't mind, I'll walk up there, maybe helps it easier. So this is the the fueling station that is remaining in place. It is boarded off. This is used by all the town departments, like the fire department, DPW, and everything, and police department. So that will be operational 24/7 as it currently is. There will be security and everything. Where the old green building that you saw that used to sit here will now become employee parking, visitor parking, fleet vehicle parking. That original storage building that was built in the 70s basically goes from here to here. As Kevin said, we are trying to salvage as much of that building as possible. What that really means is we're salvaging the foundations. The foundations are on caissons and everything. So we are being able to reuse that. This becomes a new administrative wing, break rooms for the crews and everything, as well as vehicle operation, and then some additional storage that we're putting on at the end of the building. And then as you see the site will remain, the truck will circulate around. There will be a main entrance here for in and out of the vehicles. And then the fueling station will be able to work here. And in cases of emergency or something, there will be a bypass here where you can move through the park. Next slide, please. This is the interior of the building. Again, this big piece in the middle is essentially the existing vehicle storage that is going to remain in footprint. It'll just be upgraded, restructured, and everything, but we will use the foundation. We're putting on 4 additional vehicle bays here to accommodate the new trucks and everything that they have, the equipment demands and the town grow. One of the things we try to do is make the facility as flexible as possible. And so what you'll see is, as they currently park them, they can tandem park trucks here and stack them. There are doors there. There are some doors in the rear as well. But what this layout also allows them to do, if they needed to prep for a storm or something, get additional vehicles in, they could then line all the trucks up this way and pack even more equipment in there in cases of snow emergency and stuff, so they can be prepped and ready for those operations. Down here, and basically this little portion here, is the new administration facility. For many of you may realize that the existing administration building is a little, looks like a little ranch next to it. Because all the operations are disconnected and everything, they aren't as efficient as they can be. So what we try to do is bring all the operations under one building. So this will be the administrative area. This is where the public will come in to do any business that they have at the DPW. From this portion back, this is where the crew rooms are. There's a break room for them. They no longer have to feed the wood stove to keep the building warm. There's locker rooms for both men and women for the operations. For proper, dress and uniforms and everything that they need. This back area here becomes the water department shop, where they can work on that. And then this upper portion you see is the new vehicle repair bays for the mechanics. There's 3 primary bays. There's also the operations that are currently done kind of indoors, outdoors, and wherever they can do is like the welding and everything. There is a little welding shop in that top bay, so that those are all the proper facilities. And then last but not least, up at the very top there, that is the vehicle wash bay. By code, DEP, the EPA requires trucks to be washed inside so that you can retain the salt, waters, oils, whatever can run off, and go through the proper systems and everything. So that is a wash bay. What this also helps is it actually improves the longevity of the trucks and everything. Because currently they don't get washed as often as they can, and you're spending, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars for some of these vehicles. So you actually improve the life expectancy on those vehicles. Next slide, please. Then these are the renderings that show this would be the new street facade on Essex Street. So there's those 4 new bays that we talked about. These are all the existing bays of the existing building. And then this is the new administrative base repair garage. Next slide. This is again just a side view, so those are those 4 new bays. Next slide. This is, if you come in, so if you're public and you come in, that's the entrance right there that you do the business with the DPW, the offices and break rooms, and then this part is when they do the vehicle store repairs. So this is the garage with the high bay lifts and everything to service the vehicles. And I think there's one more slide. And then this just happens to be the rear of the building. So again, to make these buildings as flexible as possible, Sometimes a vehicle on the street will break down. It's on a tow truck. So what you'll see with these pull-through doors is this gives you the maximum flexibility. So if a truck breaks down, they can pull it through on a tow truck. The tow truck can still get out. Sometimes you'll see garages where they're just dead-ended, which makes it very hard to work on the vehicles and stuff if they have to be towed into place. So what we tried to do is make the facility as flexible as possible and while still being as efficient as possible. And I believe that does all the slides, correct? So at this time, I'll be happy to address any questions you may have.
I guess probably the biggest question from anybody is how much is it going to cost? And what we'll be asking for at town meeting is $17.8 million. The town accountant has calculated that to be roughly a $250 tax increase on the average home price in Whitman. It's a large number, like Greg had said. We've been working on this design for, well, the committee's been together for about a year. It's probably been a good strong 8-9 months of design, to build the most cost-effective, facility that meets our needs, meets our future needs, and gives us the basic requirements, I think, that our crews deserve. So, at that, if there's any.
Can I sit here?
Sure, whatever you're comfortable with. We're casual.
My name is Christine. I've been in town for 28 years. I actually reached out via email to the DPW, and I have a bunch of questions that I asked.
Okay.
And all of the answers I got back were, we don't know, we don't have that information. One of them was, what is this project going to cost? And then I asked about what would the quarterly annual tax increase be on real estate taxes based on the average single family assessed home in the town. Didn't have that. I, for one, being a homeowner, a single income home, I would like to know what the increase on my quarterly and my annual would be. And if you base it off of fiscal year 23 numbers, obviously that's going to change because now you're going to look at the fiscal year 24. Higher your house is assessed, the higher your portion is going to be, the lower, obviously, it'll be lower. I asked about a tax calculator on the town website where people could go in and plug in their assessment and kind of get an idea, like, oh, year 1 to 5, this is what it's going to be. Year, 5 or 10 to 27, however this is going to be, this is what you're looking at. It's kind of like, they said they didn't have a cost for the project, and then there was also an article in the Whitman Express that also said the same thing, and that there was a selectmen's meeting where two of the selectmen said they weren't comfortable putting a figure on the town warrant where you didn't have something concrete, but it is on the warrant. And I wanted first, I should have started off first saying, I understand the building's in dire, so don't get me wrong, I agree the building's horrible. It's just, as a homeowner, one-income household, these are all things that are important to me, and I think residents would probably want to know, you don't want to go blindly on $17.8 million, not knowing how this is going to impact them. I mean, do I have to go look for a third job? Because I already have 2. You know what I mean? And I get it. I get it. It's bigger. It's more square footage. And I believe something I read also said you were hoping it would come in less. But where did the figure come from if when I asked you didn't have one? And in the article in the Whitman Express, there wasn't one. They weren't comfortable putting a number on the warrant where it wasn't concrete,
So I did get a copy of your email.
Oh, was it you?
When it came to DPW, it was circulated to me, obviously being the commissioner. At that time, we were very close to a number, but we didn't have the exact number. So working with Greg and his team, part of his scope is to create that construction estimate. And obviously, the further along we get in design, the better that estimate is, because we know what we want, we know what we're doing. So I know it was probably less than 4 or 5 weeks ago, and at the time we had a very close number, but now we've fine-tuned it to that 17.8 number.
I sent my email, I think April 11th, and then last week the article in the Whitman Express was dated the 18th, and even in that article there wasn't a figure. So, I just think it's important that
I agree 100%.
You know?
I think it was right around that same time that I attended the selectmen's meeting and gave them an update. That was like probably the first time that we made the number public, the 17.8. Obviously, one of the reasons we're doing this tonight is to keep getting the information out there. I would say we have a website, DPW.com.
Yeah, because I said I on the town website to look at information, and there wasn't anything there, and I clicked on the link to the DPW page,
Yep.
but there wasn't anything there either.
Right. So if you go there now and again, it's been a long process. There's a list of frequently asked questions, and I think a lot of your questions you had in your email are now in that frequently asked questions. You know, because obviously there are a lot of common questions, cost being the first one. So
I think too, like, there's a lot of people that are on the internet, you know, maybe, you know, mailing residential, so to let them know, hey, listen, based on, you know, the absolute we look at people, just trying to know in case it's going to vote yay for $7.8 million and not really have an idea how it's going to impact you, because it's going to impact everybody differently. And I'm just speaking for myself, like I said, you know, single income household, so that's huge for me.
right. So the estimate, you know, on the average home in
It's the median home.
median home
460.
460. Okay.
It's
So 460,000 is the median home price, and that impact is $250 per year. Obviously, you know, when we go to borrow and tax rates, you know, that's what the town accountant came up with.
And this is a debt exclusion?
It's a debt exclusion, yes.
So if this project doesn't actually cost $17.8 million and it comes in less, you only go for the lower amount?
Correct. We actually technically don't borrow the money officially till the project's over, so we know exactly what it costs. So yes, if it comes in less, we have some cost savings, then yes, we would borrow this. And I'm not going to pretend I'm an accountant to try to figure that out, what that is, you know, but yes, it'd be that.
So Kevin, what can I do? So just to clarify, because I did talk to the town administrator on this, is the first year, so just so everybody understands the clarity of it.
I know how it works.
Okay.
I just was,
So it's going to be $283 for the first year, and then the last year will be down to about $180 over the life. And so just to put out a number, they kind of settled on the $250 a year, which translates to about $65 a quarter.
yeah, that's why I mentioned a calculator on the town website
Sure.
where people can go in and if their assessment, you know, is $380,000, they can plug it in and they can sort of see from year 1 to year 20 or however long the bond is for, where they'd be looking at. But obviously, as assessments change, it's going to be higher. Assessments, you know, the way sales are today, they're just, you know, probably not going to grow anytime soon.
I don't know. Well, the assessments change.
No, the assessments change, but I'm not sure the debt.
Well, the debt obligation can change. Obviously, your home
Exactly.
is reassessed and different tax rates, and,
Exactly.
and I think that's some of the challenges of, you know, okay, you know, we can say, okay, this is what today's
And it's going to
rates and today's tax rates and today's borrowing rates. You know, this is what we estimate,
Yeah.
and nobody knows what's going to happen down the road. You know, if we did, then I'll be rich.
No, I appreciate it. Like I said, I totally agree the building is, you know, in dire and everything, but just coming from where I'm at, you know, that's what I wanted to know.
And like I said, we wanted to get the best and most accurate number out there. So, you know, when you did send that email, we were probably 90% there, you know, at the time.
Yeah, because I didn't get to the first open house and I actually didn't even get to the second one, but I had planned on coming here tonight, so I wanted to, you know, ask those questions.
Thank you for coming. Is there any other open questions, or you?
No, that was it. Those were basically what my email said, but I just wanted to come and sort of just read it because I hadn't seen anything else, like any updates anywhere in relation to what I had asked. And then when I saw the article last week in the Whitman Express, and you know, they didn't have a figure and they weren't comfortable with putting a number on there, but yet there was a number on the warrant anyway. So just those are just things that I was just curious about, like how did that come to be?
Jeff Evans, Board of Selectmen. I thought I could clear up some of what Christine said. So I was on the selectmen, I had
how much money have we spent so far to get to this point?
We appropriated just a little over $1 million last year for design and procuring an owner's project manager, which is mandated by the state. There was a few years ago, I believe, I'm not sure the exact figure, maybe a $50,000 or $60,000 appropriation to do some site investigation, soil investigation. Going back to 2008, to be honest, I'm not sure what was, and I guess I probably should level that. So in 2008, a feasibility study was done that determined we needed a new building 15 years ago. And there were funds expended then. I wasn't involved, I was just starting to get involved. So, but there were monies expended to do a feasibility study, to do some conceptual schematics. And, we did try to get this building approved in 2013, but we were unsuccessful. So, I guess, yes, to answer your question, I know at least a little over $1 million that's been appropriated, and then some back in 2008 as well.
What portion of the 17.8 would you classify as gray area? Like, lost my word.
Well, I'm very confident in the estimate that we got from Greg and his group.
I'm sorry, contingency. What portion of the budget is contingency?
Yeah, so right now we have about $700,000 in contingency.
So that's potentially...
Right, and that's where,
Okay.
Right. So hopefully we don't use any of it. It's a pretty, I'll say, simple building. It's a slab on grade. It's got the basic necessities of what we need. So.
Karen, just to clear this up, I guess I want to ask, probably for those who don't know, this needs 2 votes basically for the DPW building. And when I say that, one at the town hall on May 1st, and the other will be a ballot vote on May 20th, correct?
Correct. It'll come up at Monday's town meeting. If we're successful at town meeting, then we'll go to the town election on May 20th, and we need approval at both.
So it needs approval.
Yeah, right. To allow the town to start the process to borrow the funds. Yes.
So hopefully with this being televised, maybe it will get through to the others that didn't show.
Encourage people, WhitmanDPW.com has all the latest and greatest, has the videos, like I said, the frequently asked questions. Will give you a lot of information on the project. Obviously you can see some of the renderings and designs and things like that. But really I'd point people to the frequently asked questions to kind of delve into some of the specifics. And, anything else? All right. Thank you everyone for attending.